And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Craig. Craig and I were just talking about how weird stuff is going on out here. Down here in Florida, we're getting two solid days of rain, it looks like. We had all day long yesterday, and then I opened up the door, and it's raining like heck this morning again, which is kind of unusual. So that kind of put the kibosh on my metal detecting adventures this past weekend, but I needed a little bit of break anyways. Craig been running around like crazy, but you've been 17 degrees to 58 degrees to back down to 17, man. You getting the thaw freeze.
Yeah, it's like I've been having to wait till the afternoon to hunt. Wait till the sun hits the ground, and then it's okay to dig.
Yeah.
But I guess 17. So we've had 17 in the morning about 3 or 4 times. We've had one snow and then 3 flurry type things. Where it just put a little bit on the ground. But
I'm still saying we're going to get some snow down here this year. I think in January, February, whatever. The way the weather's been kind of crazy and raining when it shouldn't be and everything else, and then you get cold. And, every few years, we'll get a little bit of some kind of snow. Or we've already had ice already. I iced up old windshield and everything else. I'm like, this is crazy, because we have all that humidity down here anyways. But yeah, I like to see a little bit of snow maybe on Christmas. Never know. And down here in Central Florida, we don't get it very often. Last time I remember was back in '78 or something like that. Where you had like an inch or two on the ground. But doesn't last long.
Yeah, we used to have snows when I was a kid, and then basically back, I guess in the '90s, all through the '90s, hardly we never had snow, and even through early 2000s. And I remember, I was laughing. I was talking to this friend of mine, and I said, we used to go out in the winter with just a sweater on,
right.
And now you got to go out with, long underwear and
yeah,
2 or 3 pairs of socks and boots and special gloves and hat. You're out there and your nose and your eyes are running the whole time because it's so cold. That's the worst thing about the cold is it's just
it goes right through me.
My nose is running the whole time. We call it cow nose.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I was born up there in Erie, PA, man. We get this lake effect snows. We were like 70 miles from Buffalo or something like that, New York, and pounding snow and everything. I know we got a couple of guys. I think Brandon's up there. Yeah, Brandon's from New York area, so he knows what I'm talking about, man. I didn't mind cold very much, but man, my toes, my fingers, I don't know what. I've always had that problem with just get so damn bitter cold. I hated that part of it, but other than that, I didn't mind the cold that much. I see these guys up in Alaska and all these places, and I watch a lot of those shows, Craig. I'm like, 45 below zero, no way. I wouldn't survive. I'd be huddled up to the wood burner all day long, and I don't have that toughness about me. Put me in a tropical environment, I'm good.
It's like a couple years ago. I was hunting in we were out in 14-degree weather.
Yeah.
It was like, I never just hadn't been like that. And all the years that I'd metal detected, we didn't even hardly get down in the in the 20s. We didn't get any snow. We didn't get any really super cold weather. I mean, sometimes we get. I remember one time we had 80 degrees 78 degrees on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we all went out to the park, and everybody's out there playing tennis all day. It's like everybody's looking like, wow, this is crazy in the middle of the winter. You can play tennis.
Yeah, jeez. But, I don't know. I drove all over the country, and you get these. I mean, out west, Wyoming, it's like a winter wonderland out there sometimes. You'll be driving along these fine roads, and you come out of Nebraska into Wyoming or whatever, and shoot, man, weather turned bad, and you don't, can't see in front of your truck, and Then you start getting over there on the west coast and have to chain up to get over the mountains and hang iron and avalanches and all that kind of crazy stuff. But it was always an adventure though, Craig. You never knew what you're getting into in the wintertime, and a lot of guys wouldn't even go out there. You had to carry chains, snow chains, and everything else with you, but you didn't have to use them. As long as you didn't cross the mountain pass. And we see, some drivers wouldn't go over through there at all, which I understood. If you didn't know what the hell you were doing, stay off the mountain type thing. But yeah, craziness. We get on the side of what we call it the cabbage patch or whatever out there, and you just lose traction. If anybody stopped or slowed down going up the hill or something like that, you'd break traction. Everybody's truck, you're trying to chain up a truck and not get run over by your own trailer sliding towards the guardrail or something like that. It was all nuts, man. I was in my 20s and
most people don't know how to drive in the snow at all.
No.
It's like I remember in Alexandria, man. It's like God. I go out in the morning to check it. All of a sudden, I see a neighbor like sliding through the stop sign, going sideways.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my God, it's not looking good for your day.
Yeah, I remember times going through Oklahoma or something like that. But they get I'd be on I-40 up there coming through, and man, just snowing like a son of a gun. And I didn't really mind that so much. It's just when you get that clear ice on there, that black ice, and a couple different times, man, we say, man, it's getting a little too slick out here. We're doing about 30 mile an hour, and I'm like, no, we're done. I pull into the truck stop, and then you hear them get parked and been backed in, and the guys that kept on going, all of a sudden you hear is smash, they're going down through town, they're sliding into walls and big old mess. But yeah, you got to know when to get the hell off the road, that's for sure. But same way I've seen some weird stuff out there, and like these fires and stuff out in California. And the one year we were going through Montana, and it was, Craig, total blackout. All you could see is red embers all the way up and down the mountain, and animals standing out in the middle of the road, and bears and everything, just trying to get away from it, just like hell on earth kind of thing. All kinds of different weather, good weather too. Good stuff. But that's why I traveled all over the U.S. up into Canada. Some of the coldest weather is Quebec City. Oh my God, I don't even know how they live up there. Up there on Quebec, up there in Canada. Oh my God, you guys are hardcore up there. 28. It was 28 degrees below 0 Celsius or something like that, and you didn't want to turn your vehicle off at all, or at least not our southern vehicles. Anyways, I had I ran an expediting service out of through there, and you turn off your vehicle, you had to have block heaters and everything else, or you might not even get it started again. And I had enough of that. I stopped going to Canada. I'll go to Toronto. That's nice. So, gosh, kind of got off topic. Craig, I wanted to talk about that new setting. You downloaded the new or whatever the horde setting or something like that you were talking about before the show.
I think I saw it on this UK site, and they were talking about, I guess there's some hordes found over in England, and guys were asking about, what would be the best settings. Mm-hmm. I think they were mostly silver, and a guy took like a handful of silver dollars and was running them over the coil to show, you could get them up to 3 feet deep. I thought it was seemed like to me more like 2 feet, was a better, right, indication. But you could actually turn the coin sideways, and even at a deep, setting, they were reading like 22 instead of probably 40. But anyway, what you do is the guy said that Park 1 is the deepest setting, and then frequency 5 kilohertz is the deepest, frequency, and right, it's even deeper than the multi frequencies. It's the deepest, setting on the equinox. And then I put the recovery speed at 1, which is the lowest, so you have to go, kind of slow. But I decided that, I've been running the 6-inch coil, and I saw these settings. So I thought, well, heck, I'm going to, try these settings with the bigger coil, the 11-inch coil. And so I went out in the front yard, and I was hunting, and got a signal right off the bat, and it was, it was hitting it hard, but it was kind of a mixed signal, and then I was getting like a, high, tweak, in one direction, and so I thought, what the heck, I'll go ahead and dig it, because when I hit it in all metal, I could tell it was deep, but I could tell it was probably something big.
Right.
And I got down, over a foot, and I got a couple nails out, and I kept going over to the, checking it with all metal. It turned out that the big piece was a little bit off center of the hole. The nails, I guess, were, picking up the pinpoint.
Yeah, reacting to it, yeah.
But I got a picture on Hardcore and on Instagram, and it's like this. It's got like 2 ears on it, and it's like on a like a rod that it's threaded at the bottom, and just before it gets to the threaded part, it's got like a cap thing around it, and it's iron, but it's maybe 3 inches long. But,
you never told me. Does in between those ears, did it have something else that was broke off up there?
It doesn't look. It doesn't look like it now.
Oh, okay. I mean, you know what I was talking about before the show about what I thought it was, but it just.
Yeah, we were talking about it might be part of a flag top, flagpole top,
or a wrought iron fence or something like that, some kind of fancy adornment or cane, or it just has something.
I was also thinking maybe even on a railroad, wagon or something, and that top piece, you would maybe put a rope around it or something,
No, that's true. I never thought about that.
Or, I don't know. I'm hoping somebody, recognizes it and, can tell me, but.
You know what you could do, Craig, is some of these railroads, the collectors collect a lot of the railroad stuff, the padlocks, all that kind of stuff. Go over to one of their Facebook pages and put it up there. Maybe they'll get an idea. If it is railroad, they would probably know something, obviously it's in something that they collect, so might have something kind of cool right there. But
yeah, it definitely was cool looking. When I dug it up, I thought, wow, that's, I was expecting maybe like a railroad spike or something, because I've dug quite a few of these little short railroad spikes that are probably from 1850s and 60s.
Right.
Because, Main Street, it runs, I'm on Main Street in Middletown, and that was the railroad. Stonewall Jackson actually stole 4 trains and hooked them up to 8 horses each on each train, and pulled them all the way to Stanton from, they were at, Harper's Ferry.
Right.
And he pulled a trick on the Union Army, and he basically got the trains off the tracks and then blocked the tracks so they couldn't get to them.
Oh,
and
geez.
basically stole these, and then he decided that it would be good for the war effort, so they basically hauled them with horses over 100 miles down to Stanton, which is, they were crossing the mountains and everything, with these things.
Jeez.
But, the Valley Pike ran all the way, down through Virginia, and, that was a major highway that started in the 1830s. It opened up the whole of Virginia. But anyway, when he got down to Stanton, there was tracks down there, and they put the trains on the tracks and then sent them on down to Richmond from there. But that was one of the reasons I picked this area. I started reading about the history, and I was suddenly I read this thing about Stonewall Jackson's great train robbery. He basically stole the trains.
Yep.
I was thinking, robbery? I never heard about that. And then I heard about the train robbery. Where he stole the trains, but I thought it was some other kind of robbery. But But that I thought that was interesting. You know, that just shows you the history here. You know, it's just one block of parallel to the Pike is called Church Street. There's a lot of churches on that street, but that was Main Street during this Civil War, and there was a Thomas Chapel up there. I guess it's 1814, and that was a hospital during the Civil War. But there was 11 hospitals in this town too.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the fighting and battles and stuff, skirmishes. It was just constant for like 4 years, and then the Wayside Inn was the headquarters, and it changed hands 131 times during the Civil War. Which then both sides agreed not to burn it down because it made such a great headquarters.
Yeah.
So, I
don't want you to have it, but don't burn it down.
I can walk from my house, from the front of my house down there in about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how close it is. So just the proximity. Oh yeah, and before you get there is First Street, and the whole Union Army retreated down First Street. Right past my house practically. So there was a story. There's a bank on the corner, and it's. I think it's something. I think it's a dog training thing now. They got it, but when it was just the guy told me it was just an abandoned lot. And it was part of a plantation at one time, I guess. And there was a well there, and I guess they during the retreat there was a lot of dead bodies and stuff, so they just started dropping the dead bodies down the well.
That's not the smartest thing, but okay, yeah.
Things
we did back then.
Yeah, I don't think the well. I think it had dried up or something.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, well, contaminate the water. You know what I mean? I was thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the back of my yard, on the right side, on the kind of the north side of the yard, in the very back, is where the spring came across, and it behind their houses, it looks like an alley, but it's not an alley. Somebody said something about, oh, you got a nice alley. And I said, actually, that's not an alley. And they go, what do you mean? And I said, that's actually a walkway.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the same limestone stuff and pounded it down, just like they did on I guess it's called macadam or something, the way they make the roads. And they just take this rock, they took limestone rock and used 1-inch chunks of it, and they kept pounding it, and then they put dust over top of it.
Right, filled it all in. Yeah.
And after it got over a foot deep, this stuff was so tough that you could just run wagons on it, and there was I think Virginia paid $475,000, which was a king's ransom back then. This is like in the 1830s.
Wow.
And it was a big risk, but within 2 or 3 years, it paid off to the point where they put toll roads every 5 miles, and you can almost to this day. We were going through Strasburg, which is the next town south of us, and when I was looking for a house, I'd gone down to look at a farm, and we were coming up the street, and I saw this strange house, and I said, I was looking at that. I said, it's a little bit out of my price range, but I said, that house is really old.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the older ones up here. And so we got out, and we actually got, it was for sale. And so it was 6 bedrooms, I guess, and
wow.
It was the original toll house, and it was right on, right
along the road.
On the street. But there was a spot where you could go into the backyard, so there was a space where you could walk around the fence and go into the backyard. So I was walking across, I looked down, and there was a big stone, and it said 1857, I think, on it.
That's cool.
But no, 1757. I'm sorry.
Oh, geez.
So I thought, I told my brother Eric, I said, look, I said, look at that. It says 1757. I said, you know, that's crazy. But yeah, it's just you know, you know, that's the kind you see how, you know, old houses. You know, they're just down here. There's just these old houses that go back to, you know, 1850s. Some of them go back, you know, late 1700s.
Well, these old stone markers and stuff. We even saw them up there in Horsham, Pennsylvania, when we were up there. That one marker just between the fields, you know, where they plow them. It says, you know, 25 miles to Philadelphia. You know, and so it was like, well, you know, or whatever.
Well, also going down in there, you know, that was Graham Park, which was the slave. You know, they had slave quarters and stuff there. You know, right across from the other houses. You know, that was actually protected. You know, you couldn't hunt there, but
no.
You know, the other side was, you know, they had that, I guess, a 1710 house and a 1720 house, and the trouble is, it's been pounded. So
I was watching this one show. You know, Craig. You know, we often talk about, you know, how deep items are and how they get so deep and this and that, and I can't remember the name of the show I was watching, but they were using some metal detectors, you know, out there. I think one guy had a CTX, the other guy, and it wasn't Oak Island or nothing. It was another show. But anyways, you know, he was talking about how over the years, like if you're hunting wooded areas, like where Breastplate Hill was, you know, the reason that stuff is so doggone deep is you have to think about the 150 years of the leaves falling and all the mulch and, you know, how it, you know, stuff breaks down and you end up with a foot of overburden, so to speak, over top of these targets. And a lot of times I think that, especially at that site, that stuff is so doggone deep in there, you know, you may never get it. I mean, everything out of that Breastplate Hill spot. I mean, we were still digging items, but, you know, like down here when I'm dealing with this plantation properties, I mean, they have cattle on them and everything else. It's, you know, a lot of times, you know, when it gets real dry out, the sand is more porous and this stuff can get pushed down into the ground even farther. And I was kind of, you know, just surprised how deep, you know, some of this stuff is that I'm digging. I mean, it's considerable for a metal detector to get, you know, 10 to 12 inches on every single target. You know what I mean? You know, it used to be, well, not nowadays, but I mean, it used to be like, you know, if you were getting near a foot, you were doing damn good with a detector, you know, prior to probably, you know, the Equinox and all that, the CTXs. Probably,
yeah,
you know,
I remember the old detectors. The 12 inches was about as deep as you could get on anything.
Oh yeah,
no matter how big it was. You know, nowadays it's totally different.
Yeah, a dime at 9 inches is nothing for these new machines. I mean, every machine I've bought in the last 5 years can hit a 8 or 9 inch dime, which, you know, even in Deus, when the Deus first came out, I mean, you did tests and it was giving you a scratchy signal at 8 inches, and then, you know, that was about 10 years ago. I'm sure they've obviously updated everything.
Well, I also had the 9-inch coil. You know,
right.
If I had, you know, the only trouble was I wanted to get the bigger coil, but it was only an inch deeper.
Right.
You know, which
right.
I don't understand that. Why, you know, they can't make a coil a couple inches deeper than, you know, with the bigger ones. But
well, I don't know if it has to do with they use a double D technology or whatever. The concentric coil, if it was I don't know. I think that one would definitely get deeper, punch deeper, but obviously you don't have you'd have to overlap by half in order to because of the way the signal goes in the ground. You know, I mean, the cone shape kind of thought a pattern about that, but yeah, I'm not sure either, Craig. I mean, I considered the well, like what I just use it as because I know the machine so well. It's like the Bliss with the 15-inch coil and the 11-inch coil. Considerable differences in the way it hits targets at depth, but I know I can. But when you're digging, you know, a 31-inch silver dollar 31-inch deep silver dollar with an 11-inch coil. I mean, how much deeper do you want to go? I mean, you put a 15-inch coil on there and dig 40 inches down. I mean, that's a 3-foot deep hole is a hell of a hole to dig. I've been shoulder deep many times on targets, and you know, it's a devil to get down that deep. anyways, without widening the hole out. And you have a big crater, trying to get down into to get these items.
Yeah.
It's
one of the deepest targets, that I dug that was good. I was up, I dug this cannonball down about 2.5 feet deep, and it was actually sunk down into the clay. And I got this, banging signal with the Nautilus, and I was thinking, man, it's something real shallow, and I kept taking my foot, scraping away the dirt, and I kept going back over, and it kept getting louder, and I was like, God, it sounded like a belt buckle, about 3 inches deep, to me. And so I started digging, and after I got down about 1.5 feet, I started thinking, man, this is some kind of big iron, man. It could be, it could be a shell, it could be
cannonball, or
and I, there was an old roadbed near there. Well, there's two, but one of them was probably from the 1840s, and then the other one was probably put in probably during the Civil War, where they came up the creek. They probably went going up and down from the camp.
Mm-hmm.
The creek probably made kind of a road or a pathway down there, and I'd come up the creek, and I'd seen this construction going on, and I saw a guy in a truck, and I went up and asked him if I could hunt, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead." And so I just started at the creek and just walked up the hill. It was about maybe 1/4 mile, and I found a couple buttons and a couple Indian head pennies, but no bullets or anything. And and then I I started digging that hole, and I started taking this shovel, and after I got down about 2 feet, I started being more careful, and started just kind of gently scraping it, carefully,
right.
And I finally I took my digging knife out, and I started like probing a little bit, and I hit something. I thought, oh my God, I think that's it. And so I widened the hole a little bit, and I finally got it out. But then I had to carry it 2 miles back to the car.
Yeah.
So that thing weighed. It started off weighing 12 pounds, and it weighed about 120 after about 100 yards. So.
Yeah. It was great when you found it in misery by the time you got back to the vehicle with it.
Yeah. Well, luckily I was thinking, there's no way I'm leaving this in the woods,
No,
I got to take this thing back. And I remember I'd walked about 100 yards, and I was like, oh my God, it was hard to carry, I didn't have a backpack or anything.
Right.
It probably would have ripped through the backpack.
Oh yeah, that far, yeah. Shoot.
But anyway, I was walking, down these hills along the creek, and I looked down in this gully, and I saw a drywall bucket with a handle on it, and I said, "Oh my God, that's perfect."
It's a blessing.
Yeah, so I carried it back. I remember when I got home, I decided to go over to Mike Kelly's house and show him, and he's down in the basement. I come up to the sliding back door, and he goes, "What the hell is in that box?" And I said, "Man, you won't believe this." So he was like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "This is crazy. It is perfect 12-pound cannonball. It's the only one I ever. I found some small ones. I found a colonial one. It's about 2 or 3 pounds.
Right.
But when the Civil War broke, the standard cannonball was 6 pounds, but then they went up to during the Civil War, it became 12 pounds. 6 pounds just didn't have enough, punch to it.
Right.
But I, they made 150-pound cannonballs. Even
that one video I put up on there that it was on the back of a train car, and the thing was, it looked like, I don't know, twice the size of a basketball, the size of the cannonballs, and it was short, stubby cannon, but the thing was, like I said, it was huge. Firing that thing. Oh my God.
Well, those were mortars.
Oh, okay. All right.
They they had these big siege guns, where they would fire these, huge projectiles. They had, they also had the huge cannons for the forts, and also for the, a lot of the ships had these huge cannons, and and they could. I know along the Potomac River, just down from Alexandria, there was forts on both sides of the river early in the war, because that was a major route. It's been a major route since the colonial times. Man first got here. Alexandria was a huge port, and then they had another one at Dumfries, and Dumfries kind of silted in, so Alexandria became the shipping, and then when a major, hub for the trains, the boats would bring in the goods, and then the trains would ship them out. Yeah. And, Alexandria went from a port town to kind of a railroad town, because of that. But, it's, I don't know, it's, transportation is, you got to transport stuff, and they had these like huge Spanish galleons came down all the way through the Chesapeake Bay, and then they used to come down all the rivers into Virginia, and I think it was the York, the Rappahannock, the James River, and the Potomac. But a
lot of history.
Yeah, but, that's why all those cut coins and stuff were all through Dumfries and Dale City and Woodbridge.
Commerce.
It was all these little house sites, and people would, people back then, they, a big silver coin was a lot of money, so they would cut it into pieces,
Yep.
And they didn't usually cut them, fairly either. They used to, make the coins a little bit short.
Oh yeah. The American way. Make that penny last a little longer, or go a little farther, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, buddy, we're about up here 7:30. Probably cut it a little bit right on time. Anyways, guys, we'll be doing a show on Christmas, if that's okay with you, Craig. I don't mind doing that. Do you?
Yeah, I'm good for it.
All right, brother. Well, we'll do that, and of course, we're going to be on Relics Radio on Thursday night, and let's see.
That'll be crazy too.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Get some eggnog in us, and you never know what might happen. Jeez, a beverage of your choice, so to speak. But no, yeah, we'll do that. I got a bunch of stuff going on over here at the post. I'm cooking today, Craig. I got to cook up 7 turkeys and 5 hams. Get them going and get all the stuff ready to really go for tomorrow. We put on a big, pretty much come in and have Christmas, dinner. A lot of people don't have a place to go for Christmas, so heck, we just opened up the post and everybody comes in. So we put, we do all the basic stuff, the turkeys, hams, potatoes, stuffing, that kind of stuff. And then, a lot of the members will bring in, kind of like a potluck with the rest of it. So we always have a good turnout. I think, God, we had like 180 people stop by, and Thanksgiving of all times. I didn't, it seems like it'd be getting busier, with that kind of thing. People are down, snowbirds are down and stuff like that right now. Maybe they don't have any place to go to, to sit down and have a nice hot meal. So heck, come on over to our post. We'll hang out, but I get to cook it. But it's usually not too bad, Craig, though, because they do serve me beer all day long. So hey, I can't go wrong there. Serve beer and cook. I like that idea. Yeah, always nice. But anyways, guys, be sure to like and follow the show, and tell a friend about the shows there on Spreaker.com. A lot of different metal detecting shows, different formats and stuff like that. But it's a fun hobby, and maybe if they like it, tell them about it, because we really don't advertise, Greg, unless you're advertising somewhere else. I don't know. So, anyways, guys, no kidding. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday morning.